Hello and welcome to Self-Employed with Piper Phillips. Guys, I'm so excited for this episode. I have with me a friend and very talented creative in New York City. This is Zach Williams. Zach is a dancer, actor, musician, content creator, Equinox instructor. Did I miss anything?
I think that about covers it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to get into this chat because this has been something that you guys have requested. We talked to a lot of different self-employed people in different industries, and the theater space is something that is notoriously tough. So I'm really excited to chat with you about this today.
Yeah.
And this is my first question I always ask everyone. It's a really hard one, but in about 20 seconds or less, explain to the people your career trajectory thus far.
All right. Well, I went to college at FSU for musical theater, and I went to an arts high school as well. And then I moved to New York City with 2 bags, 1 me, just like Annie.
Classic.
And I lived in basically a closet. It was like a twin bed and 1 rack for clothes. And eventually, I just started figuring things out. That's what you do, you know?
Did you move here with a job lined up?
No.
No.
Which is, looking back, I don't know if that was the most, but I did get my bartending certification because I was
Okay.
like, all right, I'm going to do something. I'm going to cater, whatever it is, I'm going to figure it out, but I'm going to make sure that I've got a certification so that I can work.
Okay, smart.
And that's definitely, I think I bartended on 2 like yachts for rich people
Sick.
once. That was wild. That was the coolest thing. When I first moved to New York City, I was on the Hudson for this family. I was doing a gig for a model bartenders, a catering company, and they put me on this yacht, and I still have the photo, and the sun was setting. It was like my first month or 2 in the city. The sun was setting, and I was just like, I was making them vodka sodas, whatever it was, but
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, this is my life.
Yes.
And it was so freaking cool.
I remember that early New York energy. You're just like, I'm here.
I'm here.
I
like,
made
this
it
is,
here.
And then you go to Times Square a couple of months later, and you're like, get me out of here. Everyone walks in diagonals.
Okay, so you move here
I moved
with a
here
dream.
with a dream. I had done an internship at Maine State Music Theater.
Okay.
So I guess my biggest advice for the listeners is to plant your seeds. So like do things when you're younger that you might not want to do, or that don't pay as much. I know it's a sacrifice, and if you can, do it, but like make the connections. Because that internship, I had the creatives for Legally Blonde brought me to do White Christmas at the Fulton.
Wow.
So I started doing shows regionally.
Okay.
All over the place, you name it. And then when it was 2018, I told my agents, all right, we're going to stop regional theater. I want to get a tour. And it took a couple. It's also, I would say, one audition is not going to be the one that you might get, but the creatives of that audition, especially the casting team, will bring you, if you do a good job, they will bring you in constantly until it fits. Because everyone wants you to succeed, you know?
Yeah.
It's just about aligning everyone, finding the right fit.
Yeah.
So I got the Aladdin tour, and I
Okay.
replaced someone, and I was on it for about 2 years.
2 years.
2 years. Best time of my life. The best company. It was, you're making the most money you can. It was a production tour, and I was saving, and I was staying with family all over the country. They were seeing the show. I made memories with so many wonderful people.
Wow.
I'm very grateful, so grateful. And I got that show helped me buy a house in San Antonio that my mother and I work together on now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is great because I know a lot of you guys watching this are probably in the same boat as me where we don't know anything about this industry.
Right.
So walk us through, you got a part on the touring production of Aladdin.
Yeah.
What does that look like? How many cities do you go to? Do you sleep in hotels for that long? Is there a tour bus?
Okay.
What does it
So
look like?
it depends on the contract, but for production contracts and like right now, it's different now. No, there's still production, and there's tier 1, 2, 3. They've done away with this thing called CETA, which was short engagement touring agreement, but everything is production and it's tiered. And depending on the income, it really depends on how the tour is structured.
Okay.
But for us, because we were so big, we had 5 moving pieces. We
Wow.
had to be in a city for 2 weeks minimum.
Ooh, okay.
So we would have 2 week sit downs minimum, but like DC, we were there for 2 months, I believe.
Wow.
So company management would give us the options to fly, to you could buy out, and a lot of people drove. You
Okay.
could do hotel, you could do Airbnb. I always Airbnb'd and stayed with a really close friend of mine, and from there we would add or subtract other people, and
Yeah.
that was kind
Wow.
of 2 years of that, and we had PT on the road. It's exhausting. I don't think my left side will ever rotate the way it used to from doing BOAC, but it was the best time of my life, and I learned so much.
Wow.
I was sober the whole time too at the time, and I
Wow,
learned so
okay.
much about like not having the fear of finance, which was one of my big ones. Was okay, what are we putting ourselves up against? And that's kind of been, I guess I've always been hunting for this as an artist, is what are my ticks, especially since I had gotten sober at that time, was learning what are my isms and how can I be more self-aware of them, and how can I improve as a human being, not just as an artist, but as someone who's going to be easy to be here, grateful to work with. Like I want people to want me in their rooms, and I
Easy
want
to be here, grateful to work
I think
with.
that's the
That's
saying.
beautiful.
Grateful to be here, easy to work with. Maybe that's
Oh,
what it
great.
is.
I like that. Grateful
Yeah.
to be here, easy to work with. Yeah, because
Yeah.
your reputation
It's
is
huge.
everything.
There are casting directors who are like, you're not on our list, because we all have anxiety. I'm like, did I do
Yeah.
anything wrong? And they're like, no,
No,
fine.
you're not on the do
Like
not
we
work
have a
with.
list and you're not on it. And I'm like, they're our list.
Wow.
So if you burn a bridge, you could be on that list and you might not get brought in, and like you're considered hard to work with.
Yeah.
No matter how talented you are. At this point in the world that we're in, people don't want toxic energy in their
Well, and
room.
there's so many talented people
Yeah.
out there
Yeah.
where it's like, even if you're talented, if you're hard to work with, it's like, we'd rather work with
Yeah.
Zach. He's amazing to work with.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been, as much as I'm like trying to be a better singer and a better actor and all this, I'm also like, how can I just be a better person?
Yeah.
And that's
love
just
that.
something we can all work on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did the tour.
Okay.
The pandemic hit. I was supposed to tour in my city, in San Antonio, and it ended in Austin. It was devastating.
So was
but
this 2020, right?
2020.
As March 2020?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom picked me up. We ordered Frank's Barbecue, which is the best number one barbecue in Austin or in Texas, period.
Okay.
So I went home. That was like the first memory of going home was
Yeah.
Frank's Barbecue, all of us there. And then I started like doing home workouts, everything we were all doing during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And this is the wild thing about my career is that I don't have, 10 Broadway shows, and comparison is the thief of joy. And that's been something I've been really learning too, is that my career isn't this, glamorous 10 Broadway show, gypsy robe, things that I've always dreamed of having, but I've had such magical moments.
Yeah.
So I did this tape for Berkshire Theater Group
Okay.
to do Godspell during the pandemic. I was like, this is not going to happen. There's no way. And I ended up booking it, and I ended up doing it, and I was on the Daily podcast, the New York Times.
Wow.
So I did that. It was amazing. I got to sing Turn Back, Oh Man for Stephen Schwartz the final day, and he's the one who did the show.
Wow.
And that clicked in this. So that was kind of my first moment. I got to have my own voice on stage, and it was Godspell's an amazing show because it's yourself. You're playing one of Jesus's disciples, kind of in a way, but really you're playing yourself. And the show it's all about the people that are cast in it, because you're just kind of kikiing together and telling the story.
Wow, that's cool.
It's really cool.
Okay. So was that a big moment for you, and like after the pandemic, realizing the future of your career in theater, like
I wanted to play roles.
It was still
I was
there.
like,
It
it's
was
still
still going.
there, and it's going to be different. And I'm a
Okay.
different person.
Yeah.
And I think since then I've been trying to figure out who that person is.
Yeah.
So
Aren't we all?
right. Right. But when
true.
I guess when you're dance ensemble and you're transitioning and wanting to play roles and wanting to sing more and wanting to like be on your own, it is just a crazy
Yeah.
sensation and just something, it's different.
Yeah.
So sit with those feelings when you're in it. I would say sit when you're uncomfortable and things get messy before they get easier. So sit with that. That's another, I don't know, advice I can give.
No,
So,
that's good.
I
So, okay.
did Godspell.
Yeah.
And then I went to the city, got all my stuff from my storage unit, moved back to Texas, ended up getting my NASM certification, worked at a franchise in Texas of a new gym that opened up.
Okay.
Started teaching bar, hot Pilates, barefoot boot camps. We were swinging kettlebells in 90-degree
Oh my
heat.
God.
Wild.
It's
But I was like,
dangerous.
okay, I love this.
Okay.
And then I finally moved back to the city.
What brought you back to New York?
I was starting to get auditions again.
Okay.
And it was hard. I was like, I was like, I don't think I'm happy here. I think I
Yeah.
want to go back. I want to be an artist.
Mm.
I don't think I'm going to find love in San Antonio. There's just a lot of things. There's so many things that we have accessible to New York
Oh my God. Yeah. It's
that
the best.
I don't know. I just thought it was time to go back.
Yeah.
So I came back within a month. I got this call. I was at Equinox doing my training for cycling because I got into their ECP program, Equinox Cycle Program, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
ECP. And I was training and I got a call from the general manager of Aladdin. And she was like, do you want to come in and help us out? Little did I know it was the first COVID outbreak. I hadn't danced professionally in a year or so. I hadn't been in that kind of a headspace to be
Yeah.
like tuned up to go. I was on, like, after the tour, I was like, I want to go to Broadway with this. And I told the creatives, and they're like, yeah, you're on our list.
Wow.
I think I don't want to say that, like, I think I would, or, like, I don't like to shit on myself, but I think most of us millennials that were at the pandemic were about to hit the next.
Stride in your career.
I would have been in Aladdin by now. But what happened was I came in and I was in a different place.
Yeah.
And I was being asked a lot.
So were you
And
asked to fill in for someone who
Yes.
was sick mid-production while the show was going on, or how does that work?
Everybody was coming down with COVID.
Okay.
And I was being asked to fill in for a track that wasn't mirrored on what I was doing. So basically something a swing should do, and we'll talk later about that.
Yes.
But it's basically like you have a certain amount of rehearsal and you need to be ready to go and you have to make it look effortless, and like there was no mistake. I hadn't done men's dance,
Yeah.
which is the beginning of Arabian Nights, in a while, and of course I wanted to prove myself.
Of
And
course, yeah.
I went on for that one night. I did men's
On
dance
Broadway?
on Broadway. So I had my Broadway
Wow.
debut,
You had
which
that was your Broadway moment.
scary. I didn't bow. It wasn't the most glamorous, but it was my debut, and I'll hold
Yeah.
on to it the way I'm going to.
Yes.
But I did that. I did one jump as a guard again, which was kind of similar to what I did on tour.
Okay.
And then it closed because they just were like, we can't. Everyone was getting COVID. It's just like so I had a 2-week rider, and I just within my track on tour and what I was capable of, there was just I was never brought back.
Yeah.
And I think that was so hard for me, and it brought a lot of feelings, and I just second guessed myself, and I doubted it really, I would say for anyone in the industry, when you're fired or you're let go it can really take away your self-esteem.
Yeah.
And you
It's
really
so-
doubt your abilities.
It's hard not to take it personally when you're in the arts or when you're in a creative industry. Like, everyone deals with rejection at work, but when
Yeah.
your day-to-day job is pouring your like emotions and your passion and your talent and your vulnerability into
Yeah.
something, I know what
Yeah.
that feels like.
Yeah, it was rough. After that, I was so anxious naturally.
Yeah.
And I realized lately too that I'm anxiously attached, as most artists are, because we put our hearts out there and we get told no, and so we try to attach to things,
Yeah.
and we don't avoid, So after that, I was auditioning, and I was like so up my old agent's emails, but I guess like, did you hear anything? Did you hear anything?
Yeah.
And eventually there was an agreement that we weren't meant for each other anymore. And I was on my own for a while. And I remember my good friend, Sarah Bowden, I was living in her place, and she looked at me and she said, you can do this. She's like, you can do this on your own. You're going to figure. And she's now, y'all, she's in Smash on Broadway. She booked this show. I don't know if I should, I have to say this. She booked this after doing an ultra marathon. She was running in Wales, came and stayed at my place, nailed this audition, and she's in it, and you can't take your eyes off of her. Like, go see it, go see her, celebrate it. She's incredible. She looked at me, and she's always been such a big supporter. She said, you can do this. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I found the right voice teacher, who's my classmate from college, who's incredible.
Oh my God.
I found the right acting classes. I started to actually understand what happens when your mind clicks and gets it. And it's not just attending class. It really isn't. I also want to say this. I know I'm veering off the path, but in this day and age, and what should have been 10, 20 years ago, it is not one size fits all. And whatever career you want to do, if you are not aligning with the mentor that you have agreed to pay, you got to move on.
Yeah.
Pick somebody else because it's your money. It's your time.
Everyone learns differently. Everyone has different ways of feedback and constructive criticism that work for them.
And this is why also college BFA programs are toxic, because these professors will say, well, you're not, I mean, I was in college. I love my experience. I will not resent it for what it was, but I probated. So we had to jury every semester.
Okay, tell people what that
Can we talk
means.
about this?
Explain
Okay.
this.
So I went to FSU, Florida State University, and every semester we had to jury, which was basically auditioning for the program, just to make sure that you're following through and you're working hard and they're not worried about you. So you can fail, probate, or pass. Doesn't that sound awful?
Guys, can you imagine like being in college and having to try out for college every semester?
Oh,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was. So I would always pass dance, but I probated acting and singing almost every semester.
And that just means like we're
concerned about you. We're concerned about you. I was
Okay.
told to change my major my sophomore year. That was rough. And I don't look again. I've said some things where I've been frustrated about that comment, but I sincerely think at this part of my life where I have worked a lot on myself, it wasn't meant with ill intent. It was meant because she was like, I want you to be successful in life. And I'm seeing where you're at, and I don't think it's going to happen.
And sometimes that gives you a fire under your ass. Like,
it did.
Interestingly, my dad, who is an attorney and a real estate investor, always tells the story that his guidance counselor was like, I think you should look into like plumbing or some blue collar jobs. I just don't think you're cut out to be a lawyer.
My mom is a civil engineer, and she was told, you'll never make it in this field. It's a men's field. She's
That's crazy.
a boss. She is like, yes, she's incredible, and she proved them wrong.
Yeah.
But like,
but it hurts to hear.
it
still.
hurts to
Oh my
hear.
God.
It would hurts to hear.
Yeah. Okay, so you're not with your agent anymore. What happened then?
I started doing the work. I started going to open calls.
Wow.
I remember seeing the ECC for Death Becomes Her.
Okay.
I went to the
What's an ECC?
equity course call.
Okay.
So I signed up. So I got seen, and then I went to the appointment, danced again, and then I was called back to read and sing, and I wasn't called back for finals. And I remember being debilitated on my couch, which was just the biggest opener of my anxious attachment.
Yeah.
I started reading the book Attached, and I got a therapist.
Wow.
Mental health, I'm telling you, y'all, when you feel like you're hitting the wall with the business, go back inside and be like, what is it about me right now that's not aligning? That's the biggest advice I can give you.
How much do you feel like it has to do with your raw talent versus how much does it have to do with the state of your mental health?
Oh, to get the job?
To get the job in this industry?
Well, I would say timing. When the people say it's about timing, it's about you being free and vulnerable and available.
Yeah.
And then it's not always about talent. It's about a look. It's about connections. Most of the people that are doing Death Becomes Her on Broadway right now have worked with Chris before.
Yeah.
And he wants people who he trusts.
Yeah.
That being said, after that, Chris and we built a great friendship, and he said, I want you to come back in. We're going to do this in Chicago. So after that, funny that all happened. If I had been doing that workshop, I would not have had the last days with my grandma, who passed away right after that. And we spent the time together. I moved her into assisted living, and she got a gallbladder infection and passed away. So if I was doing that workshop, we wouldn't have had that time together. And during the pandemic, I lived with my grandma for most of the part. Like, we got very
So we were
close.
really close.
Yeah. So like,
the timing,
whatever
like,
you believe in, but like I
God,
say, God's
universe.
timing. Like
Yeah.
there's always something looking out for you.
That's beautiful.
So I ended up that week, I had auditions for Chicago, and then I had my audition for Death Becomes Her.
Okay.
And I went in. Chicago didn't happen that time, but Death Becomes Her, I went in for the first day. I did everything. I was in the final the next day. Right away, did the exact same thing again, and I booked it. And I was swinging the show, which is so funny because when my agents told me you're swinging it, I was not happy.
Really?
I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be on stage. I don't know. There's another thing, like your ego. It just, depending on your history, it's weird because it was the best track that I should have done because it really made me figure out how I learn the best. Also, if I was ensemble, how I'm going to treat the swings.
Yeah.
It's a thankless job where people forget about you a lot, and we are all human beings.
Okay. This is so
Do we
cool,
want
you
to talk about what
guys.
swinging is?
Yes. What is swinging? When you talk about swinging in a
Yeah.
production, what does that mean?
If you are being asked to swing, you have to be able to do everything. So for Death Becomes Her, I needed to be able to play Chagall, play Stefan. Most of the ensemble has bit tracks. One guy is a preacher, one is a doctor. Like all of these characters, I have to be able to do, let alone dance the show and also sing whatever the music team
So
wants.
you have to basically know every part.
It's like swings are superhumans.
Oh my God. So if I'm understanding correctly, someone drops out for whatever reason, you can be picked to fill in for almost any part of the production?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Any part except for principals, unless you are
Sure.
understudying.
That's so much work to learn
I was
all of that.
terrified. I was
my
so
God.
terrified. And when I finally got into it, sitting behind the table and watching everyone have fun, at one point I was like, oh my, it's sad.
Yeah.
But then you get used to it. Like
Okay.
I had this one, oh, she's amazing. Joanna Moyes. She covers Viola. She's in the show.
Okay.
And I remember watching her doing her swinging routine, and I was like, she's already working her track sheets, and like the way that she would, you just have to detach yourself from feeling like you're not a part of things, because you are,
Okay.
but you're just in a different place.
Because you're not always on stage. You're not
always on
part of it.
stage, and you're not like, you're watching it was during tech. I remember seeing everyone keeking and making jokes, and
Yeah.
I felt so sad. I was like, I want to be a part of that. And but it was the best, because the first swing day we had with our dance captain at the time, Amy Kwambeck, who's amazing, and she does it on Broadway now. The first day that we had to run things, I forgot everything. And
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
I was so down on myself, and I was like, I'm going to get this, Amy, I promise. She's like, I know you will. And then I started to learn, how do I learn at my best?
Okay.
It puts you against the wall of like, when you're under pressure,
Yeah.
how do you figure things out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you did.
I did. I actually, Torian, also, again, if you are ensemble, texting your swing that you might not be on is one of the kindest things you can do, and I will take that in my back pocket forever. I had just taken Barry's boot camp in Chicago, and I was eating at breakfast. He texted me saying, hey, I think I'm not going to be on tonight. Know my track. And I said, I've been running your track to the ground.
Oh.
So that turned into a call from the stage manager, you're going to be on. And then it turned into 5 hours of, I didn't have a put-in. And a put-in is when you get to rehearse the show in the track that you're going to be in with swings, ensemble, depending on who's called. But you get to be in your costumes and run everything.
Okay.
So here's what happened. This is really exciting. And it was also so validating for me, because Aladdin, I don't think I was fully ready to do what I had to be doing. And then when I did this, I was like, it's not going to happen again. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb. I was like, we're not going to it's not going to be this big shout out. We're going to really focus. We're going to ground ourselves. First was costumes. So I got fitted for everything. Then I did quick changes, which is in the first 10 minutes of the show. If you ever see it, the boys are nonstop and they're changing. Actually, everyone is. They're all changing. It's a marathon. And I remember the costume people being like, you're really good at this. They're like, you're a tour boy. And I was like, because I had dressers. Dressers are the ones who do all your changes.
Okay.
Because I had dressers in all different cities, and these are local people. So you have different people.
You don't have rapport with them yet.
No. So I knew how to move my body into these clothes because my muscle memory it was really cool. And then after that, I went to the studio and I worked with Amy and Ryan on all the choreography. Wow. And I got all these notes. And
you're getting this feedback like hours before going on stage.
Oh yeah. And I've got my notes. I've got my little note app of like, fix this, do that, do that, do that. I do all this work. And I've got 2 hours till I go on. I go to Equinox. I shower because I was like, I was hungry. I was like exhausted. I shower. I sit in the steam room and I meditate. And I'm just like, you've got this. You just trust yourself.
Yeah.
You've got this. And I go like, oh God, it was just incredible because I was playing Chagall, who is in the opening triangle. He's the front. And I hadn't been on stage since that one day in Aladdin. And I'm standing there in my also Chagall gets to be unapologetically feminine and everything. And I always have to kind of, I go in for a lot of cis white male hetero roles. I don't mind that. But getting to move your hip and be in a bevel and be fabulous, it was everything. And the curtains open, the audience is there. And I'm just like, if You want perfection. And it was, I will never forget it. I will never forget it.
Goosebumps right now.
It was everything.
Oh.
And then I did it 4 times. And Torian came back, and I hugged him. I said, "Thank you. Like I really needed that, and it taught me so much." Because right before that moment, I was so down, and I was so upset just because I felt so apart.
Yeah.
And he was so patient and kind with me about listening to it, as many people were.
Yeah.
And it just meant the world to me.
Incredible.
After that, I gotta say, another thing that I've been really tuning into is my insecurity.
Right.
After that, we had the opening night, and all I wanted to do was talk about how great I was. And it's like, there's a humbleness to it. People are like, how did you do? I was like, I nailed it. And like, all I wanted to do was, because I was so proud, but also I was still insecure.
Sure. Yes.
Which has been something I've been really tuning into, about
Yeah.
finding security in myself and not in the business I'm in, not in the roles that I'm playing, not in validation from others.
Ooh, yes. How do you do that? Like in this career that's up, down, book something, cut, whatever.
It's about not putting all of your effort into the career because they are the ones making the decisions.
Yeah.
Fast forward, we'll go back to that whole idea. Fast forward 2 days after we close, I get an email, very kind, that I'm not going to Broadway with the show because the swings have to tumble. And I was devastated.
What does that mean? Like
Flip. Like
okay.
there's an Olympic gymnast who does this stair fall, and
my
there's
God.
people who tumble in the show, and the swings have to do everything the ensemble does.
Yeah.
I cannot tumble. I did not put 2 and 2 together when I was like, oh, they'll find someone. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I thought when I went on, I was like, oh, my contract is signed. I did it. But swing. So I didn't, and I was devastated. I was like, all I want is to be a part of this, and now I'm back again.
Yeah. So what happened after that?
After
must have
that,
been really
I
hard.
had coffee with Chris, and we talked about it, and he invited me to go see The Outsiders with him that night. And then we talked about, I was like, what are you doing this summer? I'm going to go to London. He's like, oh, well, we'll meet up there. And then he said, I'm actually doing this show with Julie Andrews. And I was like,
What?
Chris, that's my idol. That is my everything. He's like, really? There's a track that opened up, and it's this like leading mouse who's debonair. And I was like, Chris, that's me. He's like, I know. And I said, well, look, I'd love to be at opening night, but I was like, if you put my name out there, I don't expect anything. And then later that night, he's like, I think you got the part, because our music director was also the associate on Death Becomes Her. So they already knew who I was in a way.
Yes.
And that's another thing. Like these connections, like do good work, be a kind person, because these connections will bring you to the next job.
Did you get to meet Julie Andrews?
I got to be in the show. I got to be directed by Julie Andrews. That's my, like, I used to go up and down the stairs doing the Von Trapp Family Goodbyes as a kid. I sat with her, and I remember, like, again, little insecure Zach playing this role. Like, I would sit with her and show her I was doing a self-tape once for Fan of the Opera for Raoul.
Oh,
and
that's my favorite show, by the way.
I showed her my tape, and she was, like, sitting there and, like, held my hand and was like, oh, darling, you sound so good.
Hearing that from Julie Andrews. That was me.
I know.
Oh my God. I mean, to hear that from
Yeah.
one of your idols after getting a rejection and then to have that must have
Yeah.
felt like the biggest warm hug.
It was everything. And then with that process and with that opening night of Death Becomes Her and where I am now, I think about, I was still so insecure, and I would ask, I'm like, Chris, I hope I'm making you proud. I wasn't able to just sit with, like, I got this job, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, in that this business will do it to us. We get so anxious about our performance. But I would say for me, looking at that moment at opening night, looking at the way that I felt that I was proud of my work as Sky, but I was also a little bit, like, I was insecure, and I also was a little, I would say sometimes a little boastful, just that I was trying to keep I was trying to hold on to my confidence.
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
So all that, and I'm getting all these auditions. During that, I was in finals for Smash.
Wow.
I was going back and forth from Connecticut, and then I come back to the city. I find out I didn't get smashed. I'm back into Pearl Studios, trying to get a job, hustling, taking class, all this stuff. And I just get more and more anxious and more neurotic and tired and frustrated. And I think my biggest eye-opener, which I hope everyone takes a little piece of this as they're going through their journey, here I was like, Zach, it's not a race. It's not a race. Why don't we try slowing down? Why don't we try taking our time? I was on unemployment, and a couple months into that, unemployment went away. And I said, why don't we start? I don't know what happened, but in the last 2 months, I was like, why don't we delete these apps that are making us more angry or frustrated, or neurotic, or like putting our confidence into someone else, like a dating app.
Yeah.
Because that'll do it to you. Someone doesn't respond to you and you become anxious.
True. And once you're in a negative space, every other thing reaffirms that.
And then you go into Pearl Studios to audition, and you're over here broken and frustrated and jealous and comparing yourself. This month is, why don't we monitor our drinking more? Why don't we just do 1 day a week? Or like, I don't know, every month I'm really tuning into, what can I let go of? What's not serving me?
Love.
What can I do more of that is serving me? So lately, I've been, the second I leave the room, I leave my apartment, headphones in, podcast on.
Love.
And because when you're going somewhere, an interview or with your friends, the energy that you want to give to them, you don't want to give on your transit, unless
true.
You know,
that like subway.
You want to recharge. You want to be filled. You want to fill your cup.
Yes.
Overflow your cup, so that if someone has something that they need help with, you can give some with, and not take from you.
Yeah.
So that's been so helpful for me. Meditation, the Happiness Lab, love that podcast. So I would say, like, all that 20 second trajectory, that's not 20 seconds at all.
You can't. I mean, it's a little bit of a mean question to put decades worth of like learning and healing into 20 seconds. You can't.
I would say all that is professionally preparedness. Be ready for what you want to go in for. And then mental health.
Yeah.
Be grounded, be vulnerable, be available, be present for what you want to go in for.
Love that. I want to get into the business side of this a little bit. So rapid fire questions here. If someone would ask you, how do you make money in New York City? What's your answer to that?
I teach group fitness at Equinox.
Okay.
I would say that's my, like, I content create and I audition. I'm an actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does the pay structure look like when you're on tour? Like when you were on tour with Aladdin,
like
for
how much
example.
were they getting paid?
How
I can say it. I mean, production tour contract isn't I think it's $2,300 a week.
Okay. So you get a weekly payment.
Weekly pay.
Okay, cool.
I think $2,300 or $2,600, depending. That's ensemble. Principal a little more. It's
that's
fierce.
good. That is good.
Fierce. Then you have agent fees. You have taxes. You don't take as much, but then you get per diem. So like, yeah. And if you're frugal and thrifty, you can save. You can save.
Yeah. So what does the payment structure look like when you're swinging, for example? Is that a contract?
You make even more.
You make more?
Yes, because you are covering all of these tracks. I don't know what the rules are for if you go on. I think that's actually trying to be negotiated.
So you do get paid for the preparation, even if you don't go on stage, because you need to learn all those
When I
parts?
swung Death Becomes Her, there was all of these walk-on bit parts and stuff, and after we closed, I got basically another paycheck with all of that, all of those bits, all those pieces, because
that's good.
I was like, oh, I didn't know I was gonna get that.
Oh, a little extra.
It was great.
I feel like there's this caricature, this trope of like the starving artist, the actor who's also, a server, 20 jobs to make it work. How much of that is true? Do you feel like these stories we hear in books and movies of portraying actors?
Very true. It's very true. You sacrifice a lot. You sacrifice a lot to do this. I think the great thing about this day and age is that there is such thing as content creation, and it's a luck of the draw. You kind of put yourself out there and see if it sticks.
Wow.
And but there's so many hustles you can do. I would say find your survival job, start figuring out how to pay your rent, and if it doesn't serve you, it shouldn't serve you. It's not. It's called survival jobs.
Yes.
I would say find the job that fulfills you. That's not in the industry that you can grow in. That's yours. So I think fitness is a great working at a big box gym.
Yeah.
You get to learn everything. You got all these trainings and it's so accessible. And eventually most of these people will find their own clients and they'll find their own, they'll build their own online platforms.
And how amazing for you as a dancer, like your job at Equinox is also giving you the benefit of the endorphins mentally and keeping your body physically fit.
Yeah, I teach
like,
bar and I do the whole thing with the girls because I'm like, oh, we're in attitude. This is good for me.
Yeah. That's amazing. Do you feel like it's possible to make a living without these survival jobs for someone who's in an ensemble cast on Broadway, for example? Can people really make a living financially from that?
Just as an ensemble?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, but I don't know how much you can save. I feel like a lot of it, especially living in New York City, a lot of it goes towards how expensive it is to live here. I think it's really important to find side gigs. My mom always calls it mad money, but like the money that you're going to spend on fancy dinners and like that should not be from your paycheck. All that money from your paycheck, if you can, that should be what's going in your savings.
Do you feel like most people who are in ensemble cast on Broadway have other jobs?
At this day and age, yeah. I know people that are they're either coaching, they're teaching. You can't depend on these 9-to-5s to not let you go at some point. I've heard so many stories of people who I heard a story recently of someone who was in a show for 7 years and that night was told, this is your last day. And it's just a business.
Oh my God.
It hurts.
Yeah.
I've heard, I mean, it hurts, but it's like, that's...
Like, even though this is an art, it is a business.
It's sad because it can be a little nasty. It's just like, this country runs on money.
It's so true.
Like, if you work in any corporation, if you're not bringing in the money, you are in danger, girl.
And that's showbiz, baby, too. Like, it's show business.
Yeah.
Okay, just out of curiosity, if someone's like a lead or a supporting lead in a Broadway show, at that point, does it become comfortable where they don't need another side job? Or at what point can a Broadway actor or an actor be like, okay, I don't need to work other jobs?
I think a lead definitely.
Okay.
But even, I mean, look at M.K. Morrissey. Look at Mary Kate. Mary Kate Morrissey. She was Elphaba. She just closed her run, and she's now like with Select Management, and she's got like a huge following on TikTok and Instagram because she used her platform like a smart girl while doing Elphaba, while the movie came out. It was such healthy such healthy important things to share about about voice health. I love her so much. We've taken class together. She's brilliant. Amazing. But she used her platform to grow as an artist and as her own person.
So smart. So it is still so key to be in a position, even though she had this lead and that's amazing, she was so smart to turn it into something else, to build her personal brand, to monetize in other ways.
Elphaba on Broadway, and she was finding other ways to monetize.
So it seems like there is a lot of networking in the acting world.
I gotta say, sadly, I feel like it's really 75% networking, 25% talent.
Wow.
But networking in an honest way. Sometimes I hate how this industry turns me into, and what I've been really working on is, if these people, you will have creatives who reach out to you or take a shine to you and you gravitate towards someone, you're like, I love the way you work.
Yeah.
How can you build that relationship genuinely? How can you get to know someone and not ask, how did I do? Or like, what are you working on next? In a way that you're like, what are you working on next? It's like, what are you working on next? Oh, that's so exciting. That's so cool. And then you just keep tabs on it and you try to ask your agents to get in for it. Or you reach out to that person saying, hey, I'd love to come in for this show. Yeah. And you just ask in a kind way, and if they remember you and they think you're right for it, they'll bring you in, but not in a manipulative way.
Oh my God. I love that you said that there's so many people in every industry where it's like networking in a transactional way, or it's icky.
It rubs me the wrong way, and I feel like sometimes it's so easy to seep in that trap, and I feel disgusting when I have been working so hard not to go in that way. Yeah. And this city will turn you into that.
Yes. Okay. This is a random thought just popped into my head. I love the movie La La Land.
Okay.
You know that movie? How, like, I always watch that as
I've
like an
never
external.
Seen the whole thing.
Oh my God.
I know. I need to watch it.
You need to watch it, and then I'll ask you again this question. But there are these scenes where Emma Stone like wants to make it as an actress. She wants to be in films, and you just see this montage of 5 years of her going to auditions, getting told no, going to auditions, getting told no,
Right.
getting to auditions, going told no. And then there's this like one part where she gets a call back and she's just like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I can't put myself out there. I don't even want to go to the callback because I don't think I can take another no.
You get sick to your stomach.
And like watching that, like, it makes me cry every time. And Ryan Gosling is like, no, you're going, like, you're doing it. And of course, like, that's the one she gets, is the opportunity that she almost didn't even say yes to. Does that resonate? Is that how it actually is?
Oh yeah. I mean, since Mouseicle, which was a direct offer from Chris, sitting next to him watching a Broadway show, and that's half the jobs out there right now are like people who know someone saying, "Oh, do this with me."
Yeah.
But I have not gotten one callback. I've made it past cuts and I've been close, but all my self tapes never heard anything. And for people who are straight actors, I had a friend who was in finals for To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway.
Wow.
And was told, her agents said, "Oh, well, she doesn't have a following. She doesn't have, we don't know who she is. She's great, but we don't." So it's like, it's just not about you.
You're expected now to be talent and also your own marketing team.
I mean, you have to, it depends on the producing team and everything, but they're both brilliant, Denzel and Jake Gyllenhaal, but Othello, you know, the producers are able to sell $900 tickets to see the show because of those actors. I'm sure that there are other brilliant actors that could play Iago and Othello, but they don't have the clout.
Yeah.
So if you want to make it in a lot of these things, you've got to have a resume, and you got to have clout.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, you can get the audition. The casting director will then select their favorites, and they'll present them to the director. And that director might say, "Oh, well, that person was on White Lotus, and that person was, I'll take these three, the rest no."
Yeah.
And so then you just did all that work in that brilliant self-tape, and you didn't even get seen because you didn't have a resume. And that's the way of the world right now.
And that takes so much acceptance to know, like, that's not in your control.
It's not about you, which is why I'm saying
personal.
What fulfills you that's not in the industry. What can you find that you can build that's going to make you happy?
Yeah.
And that's hard because finances are a tough thing here. And like, you can get stuck there because you don't have the time and the space, but I would just...
Wow. Zach, this has been so good and so helpful.
I hope it's helpful for everyone.
Obviously, people who want to make it in this industry, but even like me, who's not in this space.
I wish
there's
that
so many lessons for people.
There's so much I wish I was told when I was younger, but especially like, hey, it might not be one size fits all. You might be might have the wrong mentors, or it's going to be a tough road, and it's not always about you. And mental health, being grounded, being available. But I hope this helps y'all. I really hope that you can take a piece of this and it brings you closer to the goals you have in life.
Which leads me perfectly to my last question, which is, if a younger version of yourself was watching this, or someone is watching this right now, hates their survival job, wants to make it in acting and theater in New York City, what would you say to them?
Find the right mentors and start practicing. And if you have a dream, there's no reason why it couldn't come true.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Zach, thank you so much. Where can the people find you? What's your Instagram, TikTok?
My Instagram is ZFWilliams23. It's actually across everything.
Oh, perfect.
ZFWilliams23. But follow me and let me know if you have any questions.
Amazing. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Yay!